Hello, people of the YouTube. I'm back. Did you miss me? It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and I'm hoping that all my technology still works. I've had to kind of learn how to do all this again. But I've got my friend Omar Hanlon here. Hey, Omar.
Well, what up?
So Omar has been doing some great things over the last couple of years, touring the world with Amy Shark. But going back a bit further, I've known Omar for quite a while. So I'm going to dig back in and start asking him some questions. So you ready, motherfucker?
Don't throw me under the bus.
So Omar, I actually knew your dad, Tommy Hanlon, who was a fantastic drummer here on the Gold Coast, and I know your brother Sire and Rooker, who's a great rapper. So music's been in the family for you guys for a long time.
Yeah.
When did you start playing, man?
Um, my father bought me a bass on my ninth birthday, so that's when I started
Cool.
officially playing music. I reckon.
Yeah, at 9. But with Tommy sort of playing music around and stuff, you grew up around it. Did you have an interest in it before you started playing bass, or did you know bass was your thing? Did you think you were going to be a drummer?
You know what? I didn't really. I suppose at nine, I didn't really didn't know what I wanted to do, but it happened to be that my brother had a band with some schoolmates, and they needed a bass player, so I just sort of got thrown in and gone, "Oh, you want to play some? You want to join a band? Yeah, sure." And nine, all right, you're playing bass. This thing, I'm like, okay, sounds great. And yeah, and then I just started getting at it then. I suppose I was pretty
What type,
young.
which bass? What type of bass was it that you got?
Oh man, I can't remember. It was this black like fake precision replica thing, and it had like these black nylon strings on it, so you couldn't slap or anything on it, and it was just real dead sounding. And my father refused to buy me strings for years, so I never actually put new strings on it. Just had these black nylon strings on it for years.
Wow, that's interesting. And what type of stuff were you guys playing when you first started?
I reckon it was like Sepultura, a lot of Rage Against the Machine, and we were writing our own stuff. I think, yeah, mostly it was I jumped in the band to write original music, but yeah, we started doing covers like Rage Against the Machine, Sepultura, Corn. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, I first heard you playing when you were about 14. As you remember, I was playing for Tony Lee Scott, and we stayed at your place, and you and Sire were
Yeah.
jamming out. And I was blown away back then at just your prowess on the bass. Um, so, who were the first guys you sort of got into as a bass player?
I reckon it was probably local cats, man, because like back then, as you know, the internet sucked, so no one had internet because it was too expensive. So it had to be all your local cats, and there was a dude that used to play my father a lot. I played with you in that Tony Lee Scott band too, Damien Barnard, and he was sort of like my hero for a long time, man. He was sort of
Mate, Damien was a lot of people's heroes.
yeah,
Yeah, and he's sorely missed on the music scene, but yeah, he's one of the first
yeah,
guys that I saw around the place that just went, how's this guy? Just you could just see the way he stood and just the look in his face. He was just all about sitting in that groove, sit right in the pocket.
yeah.
And I get that same similar vibe listening to you play. So yeah, I can see
Oh,
how
thanks,
Damien would
that's an
be.
honor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I can
that's
see how he'd
to
be.
me.
Yeah,
He was my like my definitely my hero, and it probably still is in a lot of ways. I still listen back to a lot of his stuff and be like, man, this guy just such a shame he didn't blow up and become massive. You know, he had a lot to give.
yeah. Gone too soon, old Damien. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I was surprised when you said like Sepultura and Corn and stuff like that. So you guys got the metal chops down first before you kind of got into the whole R&B vibe, I guess, huh? Or
Yeah,
did
well, I
or you into
suppose
that before?
I was into R&B that before, but the band I joined was more Sepultura and that. So
Yeah,
and those guys were into it. My brother was into it. So yeah, I was more like we grew up listening to like 70s disco, like a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire, a lot of Tower Power, a lot of I suppose um, stuff that was definitely not the genre I was playing in that first band for sure.
yeah, right, yeah. And now, how about your education? Because I don't know if viewers know, but you're actually a lecturer at Southern Cross University, which I'm a full-time student at, and you're one of my lecturers. I
Yeah.
actually went to do the course 4 years ago, and then pulled out when COVID hit. And you were going
Mm.
through the course then as well, but you stuck at it, and you were the guy that talked me back into coming back on board, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just happened to bump into you a week before it started up again, and you're the one that's like, bro, if I can jump back in there. I was straight on the phone to Brad, like, dude, can I get back in? Yeah, man. See you next week. So,
Yeah.
thank you. I've been loving it. That like just what I've learnt from you guys has just been amazing. But um, to my understanding, you actually went to the conservatorium first, didn't you? Like years ago.
I, I did, man. I straight out of high school and just giving away my age. In 2004, it's my first year out of high school. I went and studied. Got accepted into the jazz course up there and did the first semester and a half of it anyway before I pulled out. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't complete the course?
No, no, I only did. I think I did about 10 units, and just life got in the way, and I just had to go and pay bills. Couldn't stay a student.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying, man, like you're playing in bands, doing the whole heavier kind of thing, but I know you for your more your R&B style playing. So what happened? How did you get more into that? As like, what was the next step after playing Sepultura and Korn and stuff?
Well, I think like growing up, I suppose in the '90s, it was heavily R&B for me anyway. Watching my father play, I suppose he was playing a lot of R&B, a lot of old school R&B, a lot of rhythm and blues, and to me that was more groovier on the bass than playing heavy metal and playing riffs. Sort of didn't really interest me after a little bit. I started wanting to be more into feel and wanting to be how music makes you want to dance.
Yeah.
And I leaned more towards the R&B side as dancing rather than the high energy metal stuff. Don't get me wrong, I still like the high energy metal stuff, and I understand a lot of people have got to do a lot of hard work to be able to play that stuff for sure. But
Yeah, dude, I got to say with the whole metal thing, like as you know, I play at a group called Absolutely 80s with the lead singers from a whole bunch of 80s groups. People think it's a cover band. It's like, no, it's the actual real lead singers. And most of the guys in the band are like our drummer, Josh, is in Caligula's Horse, which is a really cool prog metal band. So he does all the fancy double kick stuff. And you watch
yeah,
him just breezing through playing pop. It's the same as I take it you've played with Troy Wright over the years. Like
yeah,
he's
definitely.
he's just can play any of that fancy tech metal stuff. I did a fill-in gig with a band a couple of years ago, and Troy was on the drums, and man, he just played one hand while he was on the phone with the other because it was just so easy for him as opposed to all the really tech stuff. So it's good to
Troy
get a bit
Wright,
of a
one hand
grounding.
slapping on the other. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely true.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So man, um, gear wise,
Hmm.
has it been a bit of an evolution for you? Did you start out with the huge major rigs and scale down to like smaller travel rigs, as a lot of people have these days? Or talk us through your evolution of gear.
Yeah, so I mean, when I first started, I didn't even have an amp, so I used to just plug straight into a vocal PA and play. Um, and then having Damien and Barnard around our house rehearsing a lot, my father built a rehearsal room where every house we moved into, really. And Damien would leave his gear there, so I'd start using his gear. And then one day, I think I broke one of his amps and got in trouble, and I wasn't allowed to touch it anymore. It was like this old Trace Elliot 610 Trace Elliot thing, beautiful amp. But I broke it, got in trouble, so then I had to go back and look into buying my own stuff. And then I bought a Trace Elliot rig. I got a little Commander. I still have now. It's in one of the studios I work with. Um, yeah, and then I went a few years, probably over 10 years ago. I started playing for a dude named Stan Walker when he won Australian Idol, and that's probably when I first bought my solid gear. Like I got an Aguilar endorsement and started using Aguilar gear, and I actually still have that rig now, and I didn't still use it. I used it on the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're still using
But
that the
the
Aguilar?
same one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, DB 410 and like a tone hammer 500. I don't really need anything bigger. I just want something you can feel because these days everyone's on in-ears, so
yeah.
it's easy. So if you can just feel it on your feet, you can hear it up in your in-ears. It's fine.
Cool, cool. So is that now that you're using in-ears, have you got a specific sound that you dial in, like you said, so you can feel it more as well? Because
Yeah,
I've only done the in-ear thing a couple of times in the infancy stage of it, and I didn't like it at all. I felt completely disconnected from everything. Um, but yeah, do you have
yeah,
a specific tone that you dial in for that?
yeah, yeah, definitely. But I use like a Line 6 Helix and put a amp modeler in it and just what is it that XL Helix Stomp XL I think it's called.
Oh yeah, yep,
And use one of those, put an amp modeler in, and pull my own sound out of that now. But yeah, it's just I mainly go for an R&B sound with real lows. My lows are boosted, mids are slightly pulled back, and tops are pulled back a touch more than the mids. So
cool,
I like really like feeling it. Yeah,
yeah. And using a Helix.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
I've got a
yeah.
Helix rack right there that I've set up for my live streaming rig, and yeah, very handy little device. That and Brad's on Helix as well, isn't he? Brad
He is
Hosking.
on here.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
For people who don't know, Brad's the musical director for Amy and plays guitar and keyboards, who happens to be the head lecturer at our uni. So, hey, Brad, if you're watching, and hey to anyone from uni that's watching, hey, leave questions in the comments below because we'll get to those. So feel free to leave any questions as we're going. But is there a particular model that you use on the Helix?
No, I'm still sort of mucking around with it, and yeah, still really mucking around with them. I use a particular compressor and sounds that I use, but as far as amp models, nah, no. I'm still looking for one because I'm not a big fan of Ampeg sound. That real rocky MIDI sound. It's not as I was saying. I'm an R&B head, hip hop head, and that Ampeg sounds more of a rocky sound for me. It punches through it more than what I like. So, yeah.
Man, talking just about R&B and hip hop and stuff, I've noticed just at the gym they play a lot of sort of dance music stuff, and like how prominent the bass is in a lot of that stuff. And I've seen some of your posts on Instagram and on Facebook, and you're playing along with that style. And I hear the stuff, it's just like, man, that's just Omar all over. Do you find having the education that you do, musical education, handy for playing in that style?
Um, yes and no. I mean, that style, obviously, there's usually is only over two or three chords. I mean, these days it's getting a little bit more. So the education is probably a little bit overkill for that style. But yeah, um, I suppose my own education in it and my own sort of, uh, working in my own time in my own garage, listening to players like Michel Diacello and stuff like that is where that sort of probably helped me out much more than learning the theory and stuff behind it. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Cool. Now you mentioned before that your first bass was a P bass copy, and I've seen you over the years go through different styles of bass. I remember you had a really exotic looking thing where the top horn sort of connected halfway up the bloody fretboard and stuff.
Yeah, I've got it around here somewhere still too. I think. Yeah, this here it is.
Yeah, I can never play that because I'm one of those guys that hangs a thumb over the top. Yeah, look at that. I'll just switch so that people can see it. Show us again, mate.
This thing here, yeah. It's a Pavel. I don't know if you can read that. But yeah, it says what do they call it? A single cut,
Yep.
sort of like a jazz, not like a jazz replica.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
But you've come full circle and you're back on the P bass again.
Yeah, I have a P bass and a jazz. It really depends on the gig, but my main axe now would be definitely the jazz. I have a Fender Deluxe now. Yeah, a Deluxe
Oh,
Ultra.
cool. Yep. Yep.
Ultra. That's the.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I actually really digging the new Ultra 2 just came out recently. I've got it's just out of shot back there. If I do that, can you see it? Yeah, there's a Ultra 2 Strat back there. And I really
The
like it.
Sunburst.
Yeah, it is. It
Oh,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to do a demo of that pretty soon. Um, yeah, I just really like what they've done. That's got. I've got another guitar back there that's my burnt Strat, and I've done customized it over the years and hacked away the contours where the neck meets the body and everything. And
Yeah.
what they've done with the Ultra 2 series is pretty much all my customizations. There's a little switch I put on so I can get neck and bridge pickups at the same time, and they've incorporated that into a push pull thing, push, sorry. So yeah, really digging on those.
Yeah,
But
I really like them. I really like the tones of all the. I mean, that you know, Leo Fender just he got it right the first time, right? With all his the strats, the tellies, the P bass, and the jazz bass. So you just can't.
I,
It's
I
really, really
always say
good.
that because I'm a big time Strat guy, and I always say you got it right the second time. Like, I mean, tellies are great, but I need to get one again. But for me, second time with the Strat was what he got right there. But
Yeah,
yeah, what an innovator! Everyone's sort of been just copying since then.
yeah,
Hey,
definitely, definitely.
now being a teacher at uni, do you find yourself learning stuff from the students, like just keeping up to date
Oh,
sort of stuff?
100%.
Yeah,
100%, and like yeah, I learn stuff from everyone. Yeah, just perspectives on the way everyone looks at music. I suppose I'm always learning from that for sure. Like, so if someone could just pick up the bass today, and then I'll sit with them tomorrow, and then they'll say something to me, and I'll be like, I haven't even thought about it like that. It's yeah, always learning.
yeah,
Music's one of those things you're always learning, right?
yeah. I find it's really cool just to keep in the loop with new music and stuff. But I do find a lot of the students are into like Radiohead, the Deftones. I mean, Deftones was really big with the young crew at the moment. The opening act of the band I saw last night was very influenced by Deftones. Even yeah, we saw Sleeping with Sirens, and that was a student asked me to go along there, and I'd never heard of them. And I'm so glad I did. They absolutely kicked ass. So yeah, it's good to sort of keep in the loop.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Deftones was another band that we played back in that first band. We had a cover of the My Own Summer Shove It. It used to be
yep,
called. I think it was. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. That was one of the very first songs I ever learnt on bass. Actually, was a Deftones
Cool, cool. Yeah,
song.
actually, went to grab that white guitar you can see back there the other day to try and play along to that, but that's tuned down a whole step. And then, unfortunately, that song was only a half step. I was like, oh, damn, I'll have to grab. All my guitars got Floyd Roses, so it's a bit hard to just instantly do that. But yeah, big influence coming back there, mate. So when you started at uni, when you went to do the course, when I did, you weren't playing
Mhm.
with Amy. Amy just had a two piece band back then with
Yeah,
Brad, and I'm not sure your drummer's name,
Joe.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And then they asked you along. How did all that go down, mate?
Um, well, I think sort of Ames and I grew up was similar, same age. So we grew up, and as you know, in the Gold Coast small scenes, we probably known each other for best part of 20 years, and because her and Joe were real close, then her and her husband used to come and watch us do our cover shows, and yeah, she just enjoyed what I was doing, and was like, Joe plays more animated when I'm around as well, and we have more fun. So she's like, you could be definitely a good part of the show. Well, that's what I believe happened anyway. It could be if Brad is watching, he could probably comment and go, "That's definitely not what happened. You were just lucky." No, I don't. I don't
Actually,
know.
Brad had said to me that Joe, after a couple of drinks, plays a little bit more freer and lets go a bit and shows off a bit more of his chops and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess in a gig like that, you got to be restrained, huh, and not make it about you. You're there to support that front person.
100%. You supporting the music, yeah, yeah. You're there for the music. You're not there for any light on you. You're doing a job, and the job's fun.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So prior to getting the gig with Amy, I know you played with Andrew Strong from the Commitments.
Yeah.
Um, who else, mate? That springs to
Um.
mind.
Oh, I don't. I don't know, man. It's been a long road as a career.
Yeah, yeah.
Music. Played with probably not a lot of super famous people, but Andrew Strong. that was a fun gig. He just happened to. Me and my brothers used to run a jam night in Broadbeach at a place called Alto's a few years back, and he headlined Broadbeach Blues Festival, and he just came in one time when we were playing on a Wednesday night and just was like, man, and started talking to us, and he found out I had an Irish last name, and then he was like, oh, I love you already, you're on my next tour, and that's how I got that.
Is that serious?
That's pretty much how I got that gig. Yeah,
Wow.
he rang me like 3 years later and was like, hey man, hey Omar, I'm coming out on tour, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. And he was like, you want to come with me? I was like, well, sweet. How long was it go for? A month, and then I was spending a month on tour with all these geriatrics. No, I'm joking. I was probably the youngest on stage by probably nearly 20 years. Yeah, it
Wow.
was good. Fun.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how things like that happen? Like, so I first met you when I was playing for Tony Lee Scott, and how I got that gig was I happened to be at a studio, just a guy's home studio that Tony was doing some demos at, and you remember I used to have bright red hair and
Yeah.
just kind of looked apart with painted black nails, all that kind of stuff, and I rocked up to this guy's place on my longboard skateboard, and Tony's taken one look at me and gone, "We need a guy like this," and he's actually said to me, "Hey man, can you learn to mime the guitar in 6 months?" And his actual guitarist, Scotty Newman, he's going, "Man, don't you remember Rick from Nemesis and stuff, Pumpernickel?" So yeah, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time as well to get that gig. So yeah, you just never know,
It's,
huh?
it's funny. It's really what it is, man. Right place, right time. And I was telling some of the students this year, I was like, you got to be memorable. Like, don't like have a gimmick about you. Be like, people need to remember you not just by your sound, but how you look as well. So, like you were saying, red hair. Someone you just rocked up and you look a bit animated, and you're like, yeah, this is cool. We need this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So mate, I just want to jump back to Amy. So she works with international producers all around the place and everything. Have you played on any of the records yet?
No,
No, no.
that's
So
not me.
I'm assuming, mate. So I went to see you guys a couple of weeks ago up in Brisbane, and I would normally not go see that kind of show, and I was blown away. It was just such a great production number. Just the tracks running, all the lights and everything. So and all the songs. I remember turning to some of the people I was there with and going, "There's a reason she's at the top of the charts here. Like every one of these songs is just a great pop song." Um,
yeah.
so I'm assuming that a lot of the time, people use synth bass and stuff on recordings. How do you go
Yeah,
about interpreting stuff? Do you have a bit of freedom to bring you to the party as well?
yeah, definitely, and yeah, I definitely. Brad gives me a lot of freedom. So does Ames. She gives me a lot of freedom to sort of hear the parts and be like, okay. I mean, as long as you nail the outline of it, the parts that most support what's going on in the song, the
Yep.
groove, and
Yep.
then I sort of have a lot of freedom to do as I please, really. A lot more than what I thought I did at the start of it. And then
Yeah.
it just sort of, you start playing it, play the song, just and then they look at you like, yeah. And then I think about to myself, I'm like, anyone could probably play this part that I'm playing right now. I need to add a bit of more my personality into it. So that's how I started doing it. And then, as you probably would have heard at the Brisbane show, even because I was at a hometown, I was like, oh man, I'm going to play a bit more. So I played,
Yeah.
you know.
But even still, man, you were incredibly restrained. So I remember one of the students I was with there saying to me, "Oh, I'm used to hearing Omar sort of really stretch out and taking over." And there was one point, and I don't know what song it was, but it was maybe about 2/3 of the way into the show, where you started getting a bit more skippy with your right hand, um, and then just came out nice, really nice lines that complemented what was going on. But yeah, you started to bring it out a bit more of you. So yeah, that's encouraged in the band.
Yeah, it is, but I suppose the most thing is encouraged is like to support the song. But if you, I can hear parts where I'm like, all right, this is like an opportunity where I can play a nice melodic line and it'll support what Amy's doing, it'll support what Brad's doing, and Joe and I can pick up on it as a rhythm section as well. And yeah, I'm open for all ideas from anyone. Sometimes the ideas might even be Brad. Sometimes the ideas might be Amy. Sometimes the ideas are Joe's. And you're like, man, let's do something here, and we'll make it like a little feature part of the song. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, cool.
don't get me wrong. Most things are rehearsed in that show. Definitely,
Yeah.
probably 95% of it's rehearsed. Yeah.
So speaking of rehearsals, when you're rehearsing in an act of that caliber, do you guys get together, just the three of you, four of you, and jam normally, or is it like the full production number? It's like, okay, we got to get in all the monitor guys and everyone has their in-ears and the tracks running and all that kind of stuff?
We do both.
Yep.
Definitely do both. So we'll have rehearsal days where we'll, for instance, we just a couple of weeks ago we did live at the what is it called? Live at the Chapel
Yep.
series, our YouTube series,
Yep.
and it was the whole album of Sunday Sadness album, and like three or four of the songs we had never played before. So
Oh, wow.
before we went down to the and no click track. So the idea was to play it with no backing track, no click track, just raw acoustic. So we had to sort of play everything and work out different parts again to all the songs and arrangements without relying heavy on track and synths and stuff going on in the
Yeah.
tracks. So it was really fun. But we did maybe a few hour rehearsal for that before we went to Melbourne. Then we did full production rehearsal, and then we did the show. So yeah, so we do
Cool.
one sort of jam rehearsal. We were happy with everything, which went for a couple of hours, and then we ran the show with a couple of extra session musicians in Melbourne, and then did the show the following day. Yeah.
Cool. So speaking of like playing along to clicks and stuff like that, I'm interested to know what you guys have got going in your in-ears, like whether you have, are you actually hearing the click as well? Do you have, do you have spoken word cues to let you know where you are in the song and stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
You
Yeah,
do?
yeah. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Talk us through
Brad
that, man.
is. Yeah, cool. So, I mean, like, started a song. It's usually Brad doing it. We're doing it via just a mic that he's recorded when he set the playback rig up. So he'll have a whole track for just his guide vocal, what they call it. So that he'll just say, name the song, and then he might go. Uh, he won't tell us chords or anything in the song. Obviously, you expected to know that, but he'll say the feel or where to drop out and where to come back in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it will tell us when a stop is. If there's a stop up in on like a 3 and or a 3 E, he'll go, or he'll play. Okay, there. Sorry, my dog. Might go to the end of the song, and he'll tell us how to end it. Like go play right through to the end of the bar, or end it on one. It's the tight end. It's a wash end. He'll tell us that type of stuff. So he makes it so easy for us. Really does.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. When I was watching the band last night, we were behind the lighting guy, and I could tell when they were running tracks, because they not only did they have the time, so they were keeping a really tight schedule, they were really on time, but they had time code would come up beside that every time they were running tracks. So I knew as soon as I saw that count up, and you'd wait sort of like about the equivalent of the count of 4 or something. Speaking of which, do you guys get like 2 bars count in of click before things start, or?
It depends. It depends on the song, I think. But
I guess, if you've got like a keyboard
usually,
intro or something, you wouldn't need it, would you? It'd just start.
yeah, it just starts. But I mean, for time code for lighting show, I think there's gonna be a minimum of 1 bar anyway. So
Yeah, right.
that's just me picking up on what's going on around me. No one's actually ever said that to me, but I'm just like, I'm just paying attention to see what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, man. In the 80s show, I've put in some of the songs where sometimes it's in repetitive songs, it's really hard to know where you are, especially if you got to have a rehearsal without the singers there, etc. So I did the whole spoken word thing in there for everyone to hear on their clicks. So an example would be I Hear Motion by The Models, which is just very repetitive track, that synth hook going the whole way. And the drummer needs to know, when do I do my little solos and stuff? So I've got all those put in there with, drum solo, 2, 3, 4, etc. But then at the end, just to be cheeky, I've put little things in there like, because he's the only one that's hearing that, like, now turn around and blow your guitar player a kiss. And at the end of that song, Josh will turn around and it's like, Gotcha. So do you guys ever have any little cheeky things like that, or am I putting ideas in Brad's head?
Oh no, trust me, there's definitely a lot of those cheeky things that go on that only us will ever know
Oh,
about.
really? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of that stuff going on. You got to
Yeah.
have fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can't be
Man,
all serious.
yeah. Mate, so you've been balancing pretty well, being a lecturer at uni, but then on the weekends jumping on planes, flying to New York to do this bloody TV show or play at that festival. What's some
Yeah.
standout gigs for you that you've done?
Um, I suppose lately the biggest one lately was probably we opened up for Coldplay last year,
Yeah,
and and that was pretty amazing. Like we're talking like 70,000 or so. Don't quote me on that. 70,000 people there in a stadium. It's just like mind blowing. Like you just look out and just see a sea of people.
yeah,
So
right. And
that's
you,
probably been the biggest one.
yeah, and you played the fire relief one that they had recently.
No, no,
No.
that was maybe 3 months before I joined. Yeah, that
Oh,
was like
bummer.
just before I joined.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Because
would have
that looked,
been that looked cool as yeah.
yeah, hell yeah. So, how do you find playing those big gigs, man? Like, I know for myself in some bigger shows I've done, the bigger, the easier it is for me because you feel completely disconnected. Yet, if I've got to perform at uni in front of students, 20 odd students or something, I'm absolutely shitting myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, bigger shows feel disconnected. Is it the same for you?
Um, no, to me, I suppose just playing a show. Like I had this philosophy drilled into me that your last show is your best show. You're only as good
Yeah,
as your last show.
yeah,
So to me, I've always been, whether you play in front of 70,000 people for Coldplay, curtain raiser, or support act, or whether it's the beer garden in front of three people, you still want to bring it all the same energy every time. So I don't, like it for us as musicians, it might be the 50,000th time we've played the show or heard the show, but you got to think about the people that are coming to watch us. Their very first time and always trying to. So I suppose to answer the question, I always just I don't really think about how big the show is or how little the show is. More about how good I can make the show. You know what I mean? That's what I
cool.
try.
Yeah,
I try to do.
yeah, mate. So a few years ago, oh geez, you'll be able to tell me how long ago now. I'm thinking more like 10 years ago or something. I did a record for you and your brothers under the name the Hanlon Brothers, and
Yeah.
I mean, you guys got a music school, Hanlon School of Music and stuff. Um, are you guys still writing as the Hanlon Brothers?
No, we stopped writing, but we do have a whole bunch of stuff that we still need to release. Yeah.
Yep.
And we should release it, and a whole bunch of stuff that we took off streaming services that we need to put back up on. But no, we just sort of went our own way and sort of like, oh, listen, instead of focusing on just one project, started all our own projects, really. You know, try to get all our lives together first before we can probably one day go back and revisit rewriting songs and putting money into an endless pit that you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you got that was killer. I remember recording you guys, not knowing what to expect. We went to Rowan's studio, Luna Audio, to do
Yeah.
the basic bed tracks. Set up the mics, plug you guys in. Didn't know what to expect. I hit record and just went, well, there's not much I have to do. This is how it just the magic just all I had to do was capture the magic with microphones, and yeah, there's just something special about hearing brothers play, siblings play
Yeah.
together. I don't know if it's because you guys learn to play at the same time together, whether you've got that thing where you can just tell where the other person's going to go, the way they're going to lean into something. Do you find you have that with Sire?
Yeah, definitely. It's it's what you spend your whole life with someone, and like I said, like at 9 years old, started playing with bands with him, and I would have been mid to late 20s when we recorded that album. So a good 20 years of playing music with someone for sure,
Yeah,
100%. But
awesome.
yeah, I suppose that we played a lot together too. We played probably 3 or 4 nights a week together as well. So
Are you
Spent a
are you still
lot of time.
playing? Are you still playing regularly through the week as well?
I probably do 3 nights a week currently. Yeah, 3, 4 nights a week currently.
Yep.
Mostly, probably. Yeah, just I would actually prefer like students or someone else to be playing it. It's just that these gigs come up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it so we can get my friends and other musicians paid because they all have families. I don't have a family. I don't have kids.
Yep.
So I'd prefer to move aside. I feel like I'm getting older now and starting to let the younger crew come through and do all the gigs that I've done and already done. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. How about studio session work?
Oh yeah, I think the last studio stuff I did was for Tanisha, another local artist. I got a call from Brad. He produced one of her songs on her last album, and it was a fun day. A few hours. Just did one of the tracks. I think it was a bunch of different producers on the album. But it's a great album. She's a great artist. So if you haven't heard it, you should check her out. Anyway, Tanisha, her name is. I can't remember the name of the album, but I'm sure you'll be able to listen to it and hear which song that it was me playing on. But I think the rest of it, I think, is mostly synth bass.
Cool. And how about like because I've seen some Instagram posts and Facebook posts of you jamming along to cool stuff. Where how can people find you on the socials?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really, really slack on it. Like I'm always getting all my mates always like, man, you should post more, you should do more videos. So I'll go through waves, or I'll do like 10 videos, and then you won't hear from me for like 2 years.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you can find me. I'm Omar underscore 4am. The 4am comes from this collective of creative people that I hung with during COVID.
oh
And
yeah,
was started by a couple of people, but yeah, so a whole bunch of us, and it comes from like the the $1 million mindset, right? Like you start your day at 4 a.m. in the morning, like get up there, be the earliest to the gym, be the earliest to the whatever you're doing, be the
yeah,
first one there, the last one to leave. Type of that's where the 4 a.m. mindset comes from. Yeah.
yeah, right, cool, mate. I wanted to ask you, um,
Hmm.
just tips for players. Like I'm going to use this example. Um, I had this 10-year-old girl come through here and do some recording a couple of weeks ago that Brad put onto me, and I was blown away when as soon as she started singing. I posted it on Facebook. People have been hearing it, just going, "What? How does a 10-year-old sing like that?" Um, and she's not trained. And I've been racking my brains who's some really good singers I can send her to just to get some tips. Not so much lessons. Her parents said that they sent her only recently to a teacher, and they're just doing the same thing week after week. Hey, let's do these scales. It's like I've been doing that all bloody week at home myself. Can we move on to something else? And I said, I want to hook you up with just some awesome world class singer friends of mine, just to sit down and get some tips. Just like, here, let me save you 30 years of trying to work this shit out myself. You need to know this now. So anything that springs to mind for you, bass wise, that you can pass on to students. And before you answer that, I'm just going to say, anybody who's watching and wants to leave some questions for Omar, please do so now in the little chat thing, and I'll get to those after this. So, bass tips with Omar, go.
Bass tips, man. It's listen to as many bass players as you can and pick up from what they play, from like Pino Palladino to Jaco Pastorius to James Jamerson to I don't know Sting. Even Sting showed does some great stuff on the bass. Um, yeah, it's all about listening. It's really who you're listening to is that's where you learn the most. Yeah,
Yeah,
transcribe, listen. You find even like I find for myself, like I'll be listening to now it could be anything. It could be my niece playing some Beyonce or something, and then I'll hear Beyonce sing a run, and I'll be like, man, that's a tasty run. I'll try and remember it, come back and try and transcribe it out. And I go, what is she actually doing here?
yeah,
you know. So it's not. So listen to everything. Don't just listen to just bass as a bass player. Listen to horns. Listen to what the singer's doing. Listen to their approach. And then I suppose that's where your theory knowledge comes in, with to understand their approach and what they're singing over top of what chord that's supporting them, I suppose.
You know, I think that's a really good tip because there's a lot of parrots out there who are just mimicking their heroes and not bringing anything new to it. And I've always heard guys that I admire that are really creative and have their own sound, that they listen to other instruments. You know, they're like, oh, I'm really into piano players. I'm just trying to play piano style on the guitar, or I'm been listening to sax players and trying to incorporate that into my playing. So that's a really good tip, I think. I know, I mean, the new guard of guys, you got Tim Henson from Polyphia, and he's trying to sound like synthesizers and arpeggiators and stuff like that. And you know, that's something for years I was trying to learn to do myself. I was always a synth head, and just that arpeggiated things like, how can I do that on guitar? And then discovered string skipping arpeggios can get that sound. And so, yeah, great tip there, man.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's all about listening. Music is, your instrument is just your tool, right? It's the bigger picture is the actual music. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What are you listening to now?
The stuff I listen mostly to is mostly hip hop at the moment. To be honest with you, I listen to a lot of new hip hop. Like a lot of Drake, J Cole, and like whoever comes on after they're in the playlists. Yeah, I'm big into mood music. You know, like I'll go to the gym and put on. Actually, I'll go to the gym and put on country. To be honest, listen to country music.
No, no.
But,
I don't like country.
really, I just love music, man. Like I did this. Me and my brother did this album for a dude named Don Allen, this Kiwi country singer who I think had a hit in Europe in the '80s, and we spent like before me doing this project with him a few years ago at Sherrill Studios in Ashmore. I think it was
Yep.
Simon Sherrill used to run it, and before doing that project, I never listened to country, but it sort of just gave me this appreciation for country. You know, simple bass lines, 135 on the bass, but still supporting what's going on and everything else in the song.
Yeah. Awesome. Man, you mentioned just about listening to hip hop and stuff. Since going to uni, my ear has been really exposed to some of the complexities that happen in the background, just the extended chords and stuff happening in the background of hip hop these days. You know, using a
Yeah.
Rhodes piano or something, and having the education that you do. Are you finding it fun to play along to that kind of stuff and going, oh, listen to that, it's a minor major 7 there. I know how to dance around that
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
or we're going to a 13 or a minor 11. Is that the
yeah, for
part of the
sure.
attraction?
Yeah. I think the attraction is the jazz hip hop stuff that I think dudes like Robert Glasper sort of brought to it. He sort of came done a lot of work with Kendrick Lamar and sort of made jazz hip hop a big thing again because it was big in the '90s and it sort of disappeared for a bit and it's come back big in the from about 2013. It sort of came back big again. But yeah, definitely the jazz aspect of hip hop because I mean you put jazz into pop and it you clever yourself off the radio. You know what I mean? It's too complex for people. But you put it subtly in the back of R&B and hip hop. People are there listening to the drum beats and the trap hats. They're not really paying attention to the subtleties of the chords happening behind it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I've really been noticing it. It's been great. And actually, it's been good for me to walk up to a keyboard and be able to just keep stacking thirds on top and just sound like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. No, Omar and Sam taught me that in theory class. So, yeah. Man, anybody out there who's been playing music and hasn't studied and has the opportunity to go to university and do so, do it. Do it. Like, I should have done it fucking years ago. I really should have. It's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I struggled in high school with, I didn't find out till later in life that, you know, I'm one of these ADHD kids. And high school, yeah, I did so bad. I just wasn't interested. That wasn't engaging. And I just didn't fit the mold that they were trying, the way they tried to teach and everything. But yeah, loving it. I can now actually talk to keyboard players in particular, because they're generally a lot more schooled when they're talking about things and understand what they're doing, and just go a bit deeper into music and appreciation of it, along with the musicology side of it. Just all the history of different genres and stuff as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it builds your vocabulary because music's a language. So if you're only having a conversation with 30 words, and you can only get across so much. You can't really express yourself. And the more you learn in music theory and going to school, the larger your vocabulary gets, and the more you can express. Right. So
Absolutely, and being able to cross pollinate different styles. Learning a little bit about bossa nova, or and then sort of sneak that into whatever genre you happen to be playing in, and you see people's reactions like, "Cool, that's different. That's not the same crap that everybody's been doing for the last 50 years."
yeah.
Yeah, and do you find by teaching it as well, because you'd have to teach the same unit year after year, that it really solidifies stuff for yourself?
Um. Yeah. No. No, like I suppose it just makes me think about it different ways because, yeah, it's teaching the same unit, but there's always different questions, and
Yeah,
people will always see it differently. And then I have to think about going, okay, how do you think about this, and then try and explain it in a way that they'll understand it. So, yeah, solidifying it, but I suppose mostly it's the foundation of music anyway. The stuff that I teach, I teach foundational levels. I don't teach the advanced levels. So I suppose it's something that I play every day anyway. So, but it's
yeah.
more the language of trying to explain and work out how other people think about these things is more the.
So that's one thing I generally ask my guests. And mate, you're only the second bass player that I've had a dedicated episode on. The other person being Lee Sklar, so you're in good company.
Ooh, far out, yeah. Oh,
But I generally ask people how they view the fretboard, and I've got some amazing answers from guitar players, because some people rely exclusively on the cage system. Some guys are 3 note per string scale types of guys. Some guys learn their whole tone, semitone, tone, semitone, and learn it all on one string. Is there a general method that helped you discover the fretboard and gave you freedom on the fretboard?
um, the general method that made me just yeah, and it's probably the thing that I teach the most too is just the major scale and arpeggiating every note of the major scale. All your stuff from G major and play your G major scale up in a linear motion all on one string, and then play all your arpeggios for every one of those notes. And that probably taught me the most, and 2 octaves of arpeggios, not just 1 octave.
Yeah, right.
And
Cool.
everything. And then once you learn that in one key, because as our instruments, if you don't change the tune in its tune and fourths, you can move that and transpose it anywhere without even having to change your fingers around.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing. Early on in the piece at uni, you guys are teaching about the Nashville system, as they call it. Giving each degree of the scale a number, and that makes things a lot easier to transpose around the place, doesn't it? I've been trying
It
to tell people
does.
for years. Like think of it, 1 5 6 4 or whatever, so that if you're playing with a singer and then they turn around at the last minute and go, "Guys, I'm just not feeling it. We have to do it down a minor third or something."
Downtones. Yeah,
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 yeah. You're not thinking notes. Yeah, more scale degrees. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's being a session musician. That's something you need to know for sure. You
Yeah,
need to know
yeah,
the way around the fretboard. That way, if someone goes, "Listen, this song's usually in the key of C. I'm going to do it in G flat," most people will be like, "Oh,"
yeah, yeah,
but if you know the Nashville system, it's easy.
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Man, have you got any other projects on the brew right now that you want to
I
enlighten us
do.
with?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a covers band called Vibes Band. We do covers all over the East Coast, really. But we have started a like an R&B country esque ish um, original project. So which we'll start releasing some songs from that. I suppose in the next 3 or 4 months, I imagine. I hope. If
Cool.
it, if and we've written a whole bunch of tunes for it, and it's sort of folky R&B ish, folk with a backbeat, I suppose. What you maybe you'd be best off calling it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm actually looking forward to releasing that. It's not thinking about how complex it's got to be. It's more about emotions and just like just keep portraying a message. Is all it is.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I've got the whole uni holidays at the moment. I'm about to start working on some music myself, and it's good for the soul, isn't it? Putting out your own
It
stuff.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. I mean, playing covers music can be soul destroying depending on how you look at it. You know what I mean? It's better than digging holes in the hot sun, especially the last couple of weeks, in 40-degree heat digging holes. I'd rather be playing music at night to people partying for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with it, man, where I'll do it for a couple of years and just think, oh, what am I doing? Especially those gigs, if they set you up in front of the TV screens in the local RSL bistro or something, and people are going, mate, get out of the way, I can't see the footy. And you're just like,
Mate,
those kind of
I'm
gigs
waiting
just
for
destroy me,
I'm
man.
waiting for race 14 to come on, mate. You blocking me. I don't know if I won. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know those ones.
yeah. Nah, that's bottom of the barrel for me. And if I get a couple of those, I'm just like, what am I doing here? But the cover gigs can be fun too. I've done some ripper
Yeah.
ones over the years, New
Yeah.
Year's Eve gigs and stuff. Just get the whole place jumping. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You playing anywhere New Year's this year?
Haven't got one booked yet, mate. I've sort of said no to playing in cover bands over the last couple of years while I've been studying.
Yeah.
Helped out friends here and there, especially over the last holidays with Remedy when they were without a guitar player. That was kind of fun. Again, I always enjoy playing with my mate Mikey.
Yeah.
And it's just I've been playing with him since I was 14 years old, so it's just old hat. I can just rock up to a gig and go, "What are we playing, bro?" Yeah, cool, let's go.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Remedy, they play down Cooley Hotel. They still play around a fair bit, don't they? Remedy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mate, I've got a question here from Nick Jacobs. Hey, Nick, thanks for tuning in, bro. Do you use the Nashville numbers in a minor context, in a live gig setting, or jamming, or is the rule always major? I think I know what you're saying there because
I do. Yeah.
So this is the thing when I use the Nashville system. If it's in a minor key, I hear the one as a 6. I'm just so tuned into major scale.
Yeah.
But you do it in a minor key. The 1 is 1. Is that what you're asking?
1 is 1. Yeah. I know exactly where it's coming from. I suppose in church situations, like I did a carols gig on the weekend. Got rained out halfway through it, but it was still a great gig. But the way the people tend to, this is what I find, people who come up and play music in church, was a lot of musicians around and play in church, right?
Yeah.
Always count the 1 as major. But if you come from maybe a school or jazz background, 1 can be major or minor.
Yeah.
So you just dictate the key at the start. All right, I'm in A minor, 1. You know what I mean? 3 is going to be a C major, obviously. So I will use, 1, flat 3. I will call it flat 3. I won't call it 3.
Yep.
But flat 3, flat 6. Yeah.
Actually, I think I need to try and reset my brain and start getting to that because, that's been catching me out when communicating with other musos that are using it the minor way as well. So, good question, Nick. Because that's
a good question.
Something I've been trying to work out myself. If anyone else got a question that's watching, I can see. I mean, we're only a small channel. I can see there's 6 viewers watching. See you
cool.
Thanks for your thumbs up as well, guys. Subscribe, all that kind of thing. I think unless anyone's got any more questions or if there's anything you want to add, Omar, I might round things up, mate. You've given me an hour of your time, which I really appreciate.
No, just just to reiterate what Rick said, like if you're thinking about going and studying music, doesn't have to be with us. I think it's good for everyone. You go always try and work on be better yourself and master your craft. It's I think these days and especially in our music scene, we're in a world with so many distractions. There's not a lot of people who are willing to put in the 10,000 hours it takes roughly to master your craft.
Yeah.
And I think if you if you have the time to do it, you should definitely do it. You'll find that you start creating and be more happier in the music you play and stuff. That's for sure.
I got to say, man, when I was a kid, I used to see in the guitar magazines, they'd have ads for the Musicians Institute in LA, and they'd have like GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology, Bass Institute, Percussion Institute, etc. I remember the
Mhm.
bass ad, and it had Billy Sheehan, and he'd say, "You have to know the rules before you can break them," and I think that is really true. You got to know how things are constructed. But I'm learning really cool stuff from you guys. That as I'm driving home and I have the radio on, I'm hearing the stuff that you guys are teaching on the radio, and um, I'm hearing all this stuff in music by Queen, and um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an example, man. The breaks go too long though. We get 5 months off, and I forget for what we've learned. That's my only gripe. The whole what's it called? Secondary dominance.
Yeah.
Like I hear that stuff. I remember coming home after learning about secondary dominance and listening to some Bach, and there was this whole piece where the second half it was just all secondary dominance leading to modulations and stuff. It's like I can hear what that is, and then I hear Freddie Mercury doing it on the piano in Queen songs. It's just like, yeah, you've got the education going there. You've learned to do that kind of stuff, and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, secondary diminished as bridging chords and stuff like that. I hear that everywhere now, and didn't know that was a thing until learning about it. So yeah. And as Nick says here, in other words, be prepared. Hey, can I drag and drop that onto the screen? I can. Look at that. Oh, you can't see that, Omar, but I can drag comments there.
No.
Kev Chaos is saying first time listener, really enjoying it. Thanks, Kev. Nick was being really kind to us before and saying a couple of legends here. I'll take that one. A couple of legends. Whew. And then you've got the obligatory brother Sire saying, "Never heard of this bloke, mate. We never heard of you either."
That's the older brother for you. Hey.
Mate, thank you so much for your time, Omar. It's been great, mate. It's been good to actually just make sure my rig all works here as well, and
yeah,
trying to remember
thanks
how
for
to work on
inviting
the
me.
software. Yeah, no worries, man. So big thanks to Omar. Yay! I think that needs to be turned up. I'm gonna do that again with my sound effect turned up. Go. Yes. Now I got to remember how to close this thing down. I got a button over here that I hit this and I go, adios amigos.